We're back in the Red Pearls of Borneo, because last time I thought I finished the game with only a couple bits missing that wouldn't significantly impact what we've learned, but apparently there's like a whole post-credit sequence that I've missed. There's more to the story. I just didn't know it because after the credits the game just dumps you into the front screen and doesn't really say much about it. So the only hint was that when I tried to see what happened to Cynthia, the game was like, you don't have enough information. And I guess the fact that the timeline for the Shaman also couldn't be filled in because we don't know his identity. So as far as we know, Cynthia was last in the chapel, and then we have 2 empty slots where Vitalina was meeting with the Shaman in the chapel, and then the Shaman, as far as I know, gets killed by Ludwig in the jungle entrance. I haven't used this much, but there's also this tool here that lets us basically see at each hour where everyone was and who's unaccounted for. And then we can see that, yes, everything is green, other than those 3 slots I've mentioned. So we know that Lucas, Lune, and Rose, they've set off on Lucas's boat. Somewhere else off into the world they've escaped. But Cynthia was left here in the chapel. Her last scene at 7 a.m. where she's fired like 1 rocket that she's found in the bunker under the chapel. And then she thought she was done for because of that made the Japanese army aware of her position. But instead, the armed constabulary, the navy has arrived. And for she's supposed to be saved, rescued, and she herself is a government agent. So likely work for her to do here as well. So let's see how we can fill in those empty slots. In our item list, we did add the key to the passageway. And I even identified it as being owned by Jeremiah, because obviously he owns the plantation. And that opens the secret companionway under the chapel that leads to the clubhouse that they were trying at some point use to escape. We also know that the Shaman must have used it because he was able to use the secret companionway to meet with Vitalina. And then that's how he left. There was talk about him being under the altar. And this is the passageway that Cynthia later discovered was left open. So the whole bit where Lucas and Rose went to the library to get the key, then it wasn't there. That's also connected to all of this. And so in the scenes we're missing, we should be able to say that the Shaman had the key and therefore we can further sense him through the key. So there might be more to uncover there. So if we try the 3 o'clock, the key in the chapel, it gives us partial conversation that he was having with Vitalina. We did see a bit of it because we also saw it through the vial that she was holding. The Shaman, an old wizened man dressed in traditional Baju garb, emerges from below the altar. Yes, that was the bit that told us he got there through the secret passage. It is not the land that is sick, Mem Petrovsky, it is the master. A dark shadow clings to him, a spirit of greed and despair. It bleeds into everything he touches. The perils, they are but tears of the infected sea. I cannot, but the spirits of the deep offer a bargain. The Shaman pulls a small blue vial from his robes. It glows faintly in the dim light. The water is blessed by sea spirits. It will cleanse the shadow from his soul. He must drink of it. 1 draught and the curse will lift. The perils will clear. The curse for the soul is often bitter to the tongue. Trust in the old ways, Mem Petrovsky. Give it to him tonight, before the moon rises. The Shaman bows and retreats into the shadows under the chapel. Vitalina Petrovsky clutches the vial to her chest. So yes, that's how she ends up poisoning Jeremiah because she gets tricked by the Shaman, right? He definitely knows this is poison, and so he's just trying to actually poison him and get rid of the plantation owners from him. And we have also learned through basically a side comment that the reason the perils are red is because of rust getting into them, possibly from like the various constructions that are being made in the sea, and they're not like cursed or sick. So that's this, but it still doesn't feel it, right? Until we can find something to identify the Shaman, this conversation won't be filled in this spot. You know that he retreats into the shadow under the chapel, right? He's using the secret passageway, and it is on our map, the secret companionway. We should be able to go here in the next hour, 4 o'clock, and use the key again to see him leave. Yes, the Shaman is rummaging through some crates in the darkness of the secret companionway. Where is it? They said the rations were stored here. The Shaman strikes a match to light a candle. The sudden flare illuminates the Shaman's face and reflects it in an old mirror on the wall. For a split second, a ghost image of the Shaman's startled expression hangs in the air. The Shaman is seated on a crate eating rations from a tin. Ghost image, that's something we can click. Good lord, that flash. That image in the mirror. It was faint, but the psychic imprint is undeniable. The sheer intensity of the flash left a mark on the ether. It's strong enough. With this anchor, I can track him. I can feel his movements through the plantation now. Okay, so that lets us identify him as a person then. He actually becomes one of the guests in our files because him getting started in a mirror was enough for us to see him through our mind's eye as if we had a picture of him. That's sneakily hidden then. Although it does fully seem like we could have got it before the credits, right? If we just followed the key. I just was so engrossed in the story of everyone escaping it didn't even cross my mind. Finally, peace. Let's see what the spirits have stirred up with this visit. The shaman makes his way out of his hiding place discreetly. So with that in place, we can go back to 3 o'clock at the chapel and say that Vitalina and the shaman were there together. I think because we used both the items, both the vial to see her side and the key to see his side, I think we've basically seen this whole conversation so far. Vitalina, have you found the answer, Babalion? My husband really believes in you. Please tell me you can help. Oh, that's an interesting piece of information because that means Edward Bonfire. He was also aware of this. So him and Jeremiah are basically best friends and they're working with the shaman and they end up basically poisoning Jeremiah. So they brought at least some of that trouble to this plantation. But other than that, I think, yes, we've seen the two sides of this conversation. But that's not all that we can do with him, right? Because the other scene I was missing is obviously the jungle entrance where the pirate captain kills him. We know that, but at the time it was just an unknown body. And presumably we might be able to see him be in the secret passage on the hours between, but let's just skip to the jungle entrance and say that Ludwig and Babalion were there at midnight. Babalion and Tao catches up to Ludwig Harrow at the edge of the jungle. Harrow, belay that, this cannot be the design the Rajas intended. The plantation will be utterly worthless if you put it to the torch. So yeah, that was the whole thing of obviously there's conflict on the islands. It is divided, some of it are British colonies, some of it are under the Rajas, and obviously people wanted to get this land, right? But Ludwig went into burning the place down and all that stuff, which is not what they wanted. They just wanted rid of the owners. But then on the same night, the Japanese also attack, which is where all the chaos ensues. Ludwig Harrow turns slowly. He laughs. The Rajas, the Book of the Triads, you witless simpleton, yes. The Triads are also involved in the Peril trading. They don't care about the plantation. They just want to take over the oyster farm. The oysters, but the Perils, they're worthless. The pearls are tainted. You're just as much of an idiot as the rest of them. There's nothing wrong with the Perils. Bone is too cheap to buy new cages. He's using the old iron ones from the 20s. They're rusting in the water and staying in the Perils. Okay, so it's not even the construction of because I think they were talking about oil refineries that the Dutch had and they were setting them on fire or something. But it's not even that. It's literally just the cages they're using for the oysters. So they are making their own Perils red. That red swirl, it's nothing but common corrosion bleeding into the nacre. It's pathetic, really. Rust is just rust. And we knew that because through some echo or through some side conversation, we already seen a line like this that said it was rust. So I still had that information before getting into this conversation fully. Babalion and Tao steps back as he realizes the mistake he's made in running up here. You're with the Triads. He tries to back away, but the other pirates have surrounded him in the gloom. Please, Ludwig just nods. The pirates rush Babalion and Tao. Babalion and Tao fall, stabbed to death by a dozen swords. Yeah, so that's how he ends up as the unnamed body that was tricking me for quite a while, because I was thinking this was either Isia's body or Teresa's body, and then I couldn't quite work out what was going on here. But does that mean we can still place Babalion in the secret companionway in the hours in between, right? Because he was there at 4. Currently we saw it through the items, so it's not a full scene. So we've seen this start bit, and then the noise from the boathouse seems to have died down. That was Lucas's arrival and him being questioned for the first time. Finally, peace. He wipes his mouth and stands up. Let's see what the spirits have stirred up with this visit. Babalion and Tao makes his way out of his hiding place discreetly. Is he coming out into the chapel again then? Because I think he was quite busy in the clubhouse during the day. Yes, there were people there, Giro and then others. So let's check at 5 o'clock in the chapel with Babalion. No, nothing happened in this hour. So where did he come out to then? So looking at our timeline, there are a few places we have empty spots in where we haven't filled it in with either any events or not. We either filled it in with someone being there or we, through other ways, confirmed that nothing had happened there, so Babalion couldn't be there either. Well, one of the places is the boathouse itself, and it is mentioned in that scene where he's in the secret companionway, so maybe they're being specific about it being quiet at the boathouse because that's where he went next. So let's try the boathouse at 5 with Babalion. Babalion stands on the jetty of the boathouse, shielding his eye from the sun. He checks the bindings of a small wooden raft bobbing in the water. I guess if he has a plan for things to go down on the plantation this night and someone arrives, he also wants to know, like, who is this while they're here, because it could mess with his plans. Curious, where did you come from? He looks out to the sea and spots a shape on the horizon. Lucas's boat, a launch, anchored so far out. This is all very queer. He makes a decision. Babalion and Tao unmoors the raft and begins to paddle out towards the launch. Okay, so he goes to Lucas's boat while Lucas isn't here. Hopefully he didn't sabotage anything, right? Because Lucas, Lune, and Rose, they later take this boat, so, you know, wouldn't want him to, like, just drown in the sea or something. Okay, so we're gonna go 6 o'clock, Lucas's boat with Babalion. Okay, Delphine just pops in to say, we found everything on the boat location. Babalion climbs onto the deck of the Lucas's boat from the raft. The scene is grisly. Several Japanese soldiers and Royal Navy officers lie dead on the deck. What the hell happened here? He steps over a fallen sailor and finds a report clutched in his hand. That's a new item, Project Mist report. Because yes, Lucas was taking a sample and looking into the green mist. Which, by the way, the sequel to this game is called Green Mist over Portland, so I assume that is the link between the two. And the demo for it is out now. I haven't tried it because I knew I haven't finished with this game yet. Plus, I'm not sure I even need to try the demo because I will probably just wait for the full game to be out and then pick it up then. But if you like this game, you may want to check out the demo yourself now. Babalion and Tao glances at it. So he picks up the report and then glances at it, his eyes widening. He pockets the report. Okay, so now he has it. But he also has the key, so we have 2 items to track him with. But at the same time, because he's the only person left that we haven't identified locations of in various hours, it should be fairly easy to narrow him down without the use of items. I must return. I don't think I'll find much else here. He climbs back down to the raft and paddles back towards the boathouse. Well, I mean, the main problem with it is that he took the report, which means Lucas won't be able to deliver it back to the army, although they may find it again when they're in the plantation after they arrived. Okay, so, well, let's take a look at this report, right? Okay, it's not an item that we can use for tracking. It's just a document we can actually read. Project Mist report. Intelligence report, subject the Mist. Origin unconfirmed. Suspected chemical trial by Imperial Japanese Navy unit off the coast. I looked that up. I didn't actually know that what it stands for. Effects: rapid necrosis of marine life, mild hallucination in humans in small doses, death from longer exposure. Conclusion: the mist is a weapons test. Sample has been acquired. Okay, so this is something that Lucas also mentioned, right? That's what they were investigating, the suspected chemical weapons that the Japanese were working on. And I guess that will carry over to the second game there. Like the title, I think, makes it quite clear. So that's the report. What else has our friend been up to? He said he must return, so potentially he then returns into the boathouse. She's popping in, that's everything at the boathouse. Babalion secures the raft to the jetty. An explosion echoes from the direction of the clubhouse, yes, so that's at that time. He watches as smoke billows into the sky, and tiny figures scatter in panic, running to the building. Utter chaos. They ran like headless chickens. Even that fool Canal, the so-called Yaga. The bunker leads straight to the clubhouse through the passage. They will be too busy running to watch the shadows. I can make it there. Take a look around and remain undetected. Babalion moves towards the tunnel entrance. Okay, so he moves towards the entrance in the clubhouse or in the chapel? I wasn't quite sure where the whole scene was happening, where they're going to use the tunnel to escape, but as far as we know, the tunnel only goes between the clubhouse and the chapel, because after it's actually exploded during the combat, they said it was useless now. But at the same time, those buildings don't seem so far apart, but I guess having cover rather than running in the open, it can help you, right? If you're actively under attack. Well, I mean, he will be in either one of those two, right? Either he's gone to the clubhouse side or the chapel side. So let's see, at 8 o'clock is not in the clubhouse, which means he's gone to the chapel side. Or he's actually already in the secret companionway. Okay, not in the chapel, so just in the tunnel itself? Yes, okay. And that's everything in the secret companionway. Babalion navigates the concrete bunker and enters the secret companionway passage. The air is stale and the tunnel is very narrow. So tight. He presses on, the walls closing in with every step. Finally, he reaches the end. He locates the hidden latch. With a soft click, he slides open the panel that leads to the clubhouse. So yeah, somehow while they're all there with the panic of things have exploded in the clubhouse, he manages to sneak out. I guess at that time they've already gone into the house because it's towards dinner, because yeah, they left after 7. Okay, well, does that mean he's in the clubhouse at 9 then? He is, that makes sense. Babalion steps out from behind the panel into the ruined clubhouse. He surveys the smoking debris, and his attention is caught by movement on the lawn outside. Armed men. What the hell? He spots a familiar figure barking orders. Harrow. What is he doing here? The Rajas cannot be aware of this. Why go to the trouble of getting Jeremiah poisoned quietly to avoid suspicions, only to send this brute? It makes no sense, unless Harrow is double-crossing the Rajas. I'm sure of it. Babalion retreats back into the deep shadows to watch. Okay, so he's gonna observe. That means he might just be observing from the clubhouse though. Yeah, he's still here. He continues to watch from his vantage point. He sees Ludwig and his men move towards the railway. Moments later, flames erupt along the tracks. Madness! The tobacco fields are right there! The season has been dry, everything will burn, the entire plantation will be consumed. This is not what the Rajas would have wanted. What is going on here? Realizing the danger, Babalion breaks cover. He rushes towards the spreading fire. It's interesting that he sees all of this and he works out that Ludwig cannot possibly be working for the benefit of the Rajas, but yet he still goes to meet him and gets himself killed. So he rushes towards the spreading fire, so he goes to the railway. So next hour is 11. And yes, he's at the railway. The heat is intense as Babalion and Tao arrives at the railway. The fire is already spreading fast, consuming the dry grass all around. He spots Ludwig heading back to the jungle, a torch still in his hand. You fool! You bloodthirsty fool! Why are you destroying everything? Anger replaces fear. Babalion steps out from the smoke and heads in Ludwig's Harrow's direction. Okay, so he's just enraged that he stops thinking about what may happen to him and instead starts chasing Ludwig to the jungle entrance. And we already know that because that's the scene where they meet and Babalion dies. So that's actually his entire timeline on the plantation, because yet then he's dead, we can't track him anymore. That leaves us with Cynthia. Cynthia, after the chapel, after the Navy arrives, what happens? If we look at the global timeline, some rooms we got checked off as nothing more happened here at all, right? That we've discovered everything that happened. But some places, like we have Bones' room, there has never been a scene in Bones' room at all. And then obviously we've got things in the chapel that could have happened, the clubhouse, guest house, jungle entrance, the railways is still open, the study, the veranda, and the workers' quarters. So Cynthia's going around maybe to some of those places, the Navy's going around to some of those places, although once again, we don't have those characters. If we go on our guest list, in theory, there is still a spot for someone that we could put in here. But again, we would have to find a picture of them, flash of light while they're looking in the mirror in order to identify them. But I think maybe it's like, I just need to try Cynthia after that last time she's been seen, see if she's gone into any of those other locations. Because yeah, her being in the chapel is also the only remaining thing on our timeline with a clue. It leads us somewhere. So yeah, she's in this chapel. She sees the Japanese swarming from the beach. But in the final moment, she hears the sirens from the boats and looks, and it's the armed constabulary and the warships from the Navy, and then she just sinks down to the floor. So I thought she might have stayed in the chapel, but as far as I know, that did not work. Oh, but now it pops in. Okay, I might be like, did I go crazy and I just didn't click that again? Because I feel like I did, and it said, you don't have enough information to identify it, so I'm not sure if by doing the rest of the timeline, I've unlocked something in the game now. I don't have enough information to identify the soldiers or follow the trail past this hour yet. I need to unlock some more memories first. I should come back later. Okay, but despite saying that, there is a scene where she's talking to some soldiers, but it's partial, as if we were looking for an item, even though we're not. So things seem to be changing a little bit and how the game reveals things to us, although someone did mention that in the comment that this post-credit scene is quite different from how the game played in the main part, so we'll see where that gets us. I'm gonna have to be open to like trying things, even though it might seem like it wouldn't work. The gunfire has ceased, replaced by the orderly shouting of naval officers as they unload from the launches. Cynthia Seville walks out of the chapel into the morning sun, holstering her revolver. She looks out over the estate. The fires are being brought under control, but the scars on the land are permanent. She reaches into her pocket for her cigarette case, her fingers brushing against something smooth and round. She pulls it out. It's a single, perfect Peril. Okay, that's a new item, but again, that gives us the question of why we're gonna be using this Peril. The red swirl inside it catches the light, glowing like a dying ember. She rolls it between her fingers, thoughtful. A souvenir, lest we forget. She slips the Peril back into her pocket and lights a cigarette. A Navy officer approaches her, hand on his holster. Cynthia exhaling a cloud of smoke. Relax, Lieutenant. I'm Cynthia Seville, MI5. Okay, so she's using her actual real name for this? I have all the information about what transpired here tonight. But first, I need to clean myself up. Then I will debrief you. She walks past the stunned officer towards the wash house, head held high. A superior officer by the veranda is not shocked as easily. You go clean up and meet me 10 a.m. sharp for a debriefing. Cynthia pretends to ignore him, but she smiles as she continues walking to the wash house. So she's gone off to the wash house, which I think they mean maybe the guest house, because that's previously where we've seen people washing themselves, and that's where she was supposed to be staying. And then the superior officer is by the veranda, but we don't know who he is. I'm just looking to the fact that this says there are 2 clues here, so that seemed like the 2 obvious clues. So can we then track Cynthia in the next hour into the guest house? Yes, we can. And that's everything for the guest house, so that location is now eliminated from our search. Cynthia looks around the estate, watching the Navy officers rebuke the last of the Japanese soldiers back to the jungle. The sound of gunfire dissipating and slowing down as they regain control of the plantation. Young soldiers are running around attempting to quell the clubhouse fire, while the tobacco drying sheds by the railway are but a smoldering wreck now. Cynthia enters the wash house and sits down next to the Shanghai jar. She dips her head in, the cool water washing away the exhaustion on her face. She carefully places the Peril on the countertop as she gets undressed. I shall leave her there, to the solitude of the ladle bath, contemplating her fate and the fate of her comrades, as she attempts to wash the suit of Borneo from her skin. Okay, it's basically us, the psychic, being like, I'm not gonna snoop on this lady cleaning herself. Control yourself, you freak. Okay, well, if the Peril is in our item inventory now, I assume it's basically one of the Peril from that cluster that Edward previously threw at Jeremiah. And she picked it up and then it was in her pocket, but then she took them out to show to Rose, I think? So it's just one of them left there? So does this still count as belonging to Edward? The object resists your touch, okay. Did it change ownership to Cynthia now? Because she basically kept it? The owner of an item can be deceptive sometimes. The Peril should be owned by Bone or Jeremiah in theory, but it was with Cynthia for so long, it's imbued with her essence. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Like, did it change ownership by the fact that she didn't return it, basically, right? Now it's kind of hers because the other people are dead. They can't own it anymore. So yes, she counts as an owner. So once again, it's kind of a mix on the previous mechanics, although I did think that about the blue vial before, where the shaman brings the blue vial and gives it to Vitolina, but Vitolina counts as the owner, so that was already kind of the unexpected ownership in a previous item. Now, it doesn't explicitly say that Cynthia picks up the Peril after she washes, but I would assume either she or someone else does, otherwise why would that item be here? Unless only to teach us about this new weird mechanic. We know nothing else happens in the guest house. That timeline has been blocked out, so presumably she picked it up then left once she's been clean. And then it is 10 a.m, so the officer said they're doing a debrief. Now, where would this debrief be? Well, he was standing by the veranda, so were they debriefing 10 a.m. at the veranda? I won't be able to do the whole scene because the officer will be there, but I may be able to look through the Peril. No, it's not at the veranda. Yeah, I guess I just don't have enough information. And it did say, like, I don't have the identities of the soldiers, so what do I do, right? Like, how can I acquire this information? Like, there is definitely a spot, so at least the officer she spoke to could fit in here. But how do I get to that? Now we have a big concentrate button, so let's try that out. Ooh. Unlock the journey. The web of memories is complete. I can feel the resonance strengthening. It's pulling me beyond the island. Ooh, we're going on an adventure. Lucas, Lune, and Rose. I can see their escape. They endured a long, harrowing journey back to England. I've unlocked a new pathway. It maps their return voyage. I can now follow them across the sea. So we have a completely new area now, and it's basically the map. The map covering Europe, Asia, and therefore the route from Borneo all the way back to England, which where Lune's brother is, right? Like, that was the reason we were doing this whole thing. He wanted to know what happened to his family. It did say at the final report in the credits that they might be able to reunite, and I mean, if they survive this journey, it might still happen. So we start in the Sulu Sea, the open water between Borneo and the mainland. Well, we know it's Lune, Lucas, and Rose that escaped together. With the biohazard sample, Cynthia is back on the plantation. And yes, that's the only thing that happens on this sea. The sea is calm, but the deck of the launch is slick with blood. Rose Goodwill is in a cabin with a bucket of water and somewhat clean rag cleaning up Lune Goodwill's, who has finally stopped crying. There now, Lune. You're looking quite yourself again. Though I'm sure I don't know what's to be done with your hair. It's positively unruly. It matters not. Just leave it be. I only wish to curl up and sleep forever. Though, I'm frightfully peckish. I find I'm pining for Isia's kachang. And the keropok. I would give anything for a savory right now. Rose smiles wearily. I too, my dear. I too. There's a knock on the cabin door. Lucas. Ladies, I shall require your assistance on deck shortly. Oh, and Rose, I found the scissors you requested. And for you, Lune, I've managed to forage some salt beef and few ship's biscuits. Lune pulls a face. Rose, come on now, young lady. We can't be choosy. Lune reluctantly accepts the ration and begins to chew the leathery beef with a look of grim resignation. Rose uses the scissors and begins to hack at the hem of her silk gown, shortening the Parisian finery into something more serviceable for a life at sea. They step onto the deck and face the rotting bodies. Lucas drags the body of British sailor onto the rail. Lune and Rose struggle with the dead weight of Imperial Japanese soldier. Lucas. Oh wait, don't just heave them over. Get their belts, boots, timepieces, and anything else of value on them. Lune. Lucas, that's positively ghoulish. Lucas. It's survival, Lune. We have nothing, no coins, no credentials, and the world is on fire. Rose. I must say, this is a rather rum way to spend the week before Christmas. Lucas. The Japanese will have yen, perhaps even a bit of bullion. The sailors may have a few sovereigns or straight dollars in their pockets. And sidearms too. We trade all of it for clothes, food, and passage to Europe when we reach Singapore in a couple of days. Sickened but resigned, they strip the dead of their valuables before committing them to the deep. Yes, I mean, he is thinking about surviving, right? They're far away from anything. The war is raging across the world, but it has basically reached this area now. And they've escaped with nothing, and therefore they have a long journey and they need to be able to supply themselves with something. Like, he works for the government as far as he said, but it's still, he would have to reach somewhere where someone can confirm that and actually help him. So I assume we're gonna be seeing a lot of things now where a location is a single use as they pass through it, rather than having timelines we need to fill, again kind of going against of what we've seen in the game so far. Singapore. The Gibraltar of the East is now in chaos. Now our timeline is also in days rather than hours. We're going from December 17th to 1st of July. So that's quite the time they've spent traveling. So presumably if they were leaving the plantation on December 17th and they said they're going to Singapore, December 20th, Lune, Lucas, and Rose are in Singapore. They arrive in Singapore and the place is in chaos. Air raid sirens are wailing. People can be heard discussing the HMS Prince of Wales and Ripples having been sunk by Japanese air raid days ago. Everyone is panicking. Lune Goodwill and Rose Goodwill are huddled together on Coiler Quay. Coiler Quay is a bustling area in Singapore. It's a hub for trade and commerce. The streets are lined with shops and markets. We're watching the last of the grand ships leaving the harbor. They're still wearing their clothes from days ago. They've tried to clean them and restore them best they can, but they look like they've been through hell. Lucas combs through the crowd, sets of clean second-hand clothes in hand. Rose. There you are. It's so crowded here. Everyone's scrambling. This was the last ship. I've heard there will be no more now that the Japanese are here. What are we going to do? Lune. Lucas, I'm scared. The crowd is crushing us. Lucas. Don't worry, I have a plan. I still have the biohazard sample. I should be able to get a hearing with the Colonial Secretariat, the civil servants managing the government on behalf of the governor. It was the final authority for exit visas, travel permits, and emergency funds for refugees. So yeah, there is still the British reach here that they're gonna try to use, but it seems like they've missed the last straightforward way to go back with the final ship that left. They will provide us with papers and passage on Tramp Steamer. A tramp steamer was a boat that wandered from port to port in search of leftover cargo to sell. For now, I found your room at the shop house for a couple of straight dollars. The shop house were two-story terrace houses with shops on the ground floor, makes sense, and living spaces above. By 1941, these buildings had become labyrinths of small interior cubicles separated by thin plywood partitions to cram as many refugees waiting for a way out as possible. Yes, so basically just like a cupboard to stay in so they're not out on the streets. It's not much, but it will give you a chance to rest and clean up. What about you? I will stay downstairs. I won't be far if you need me. Lucas hands Rose the clothes. I'm sorry, this is all I could find. I hope they fit. Don't apologize. You've done so much already. Lune just nods. Go rest. We have a long day ahead of us in the morning. So presumably then, December 21st, they remain in Singapore still. Lucas Sterling has departed for Empress Palace to secure their papers at the Secretariat. In the shophouse cubicle, Rose Goodwill finally scrubs the last of the grime from her skin and changes into the cotton dress Lucas Sterling bought for her. She looks almost human again. Lune is famished and devours the hawker food Lucas provided. Satay, rice cakes, and various sugary confections from the street barrows until she turns a pale shade of green and curls up on the bed, groaning. Lucas returns as evening falls, looking pleased with himself. It's done. I've spoken to the harbour master. We are no longer stateless. We have credentials. Rose. Thank heavens. Lucas. However, it means I have to carry a job for them. We are to take the sample to Whitehall ourselves. They think it's safer with us as we travel incognito. Rose. Sarcastically. Of course they do. Lucas. Also, for the sake of propriety and to avoid any uncomfortable cross-examination from the Port Authority, I had to arrange our papers in a particular fashion. Lune. You are now Lune Sterling. And you are to be my sister. Lune Goodwill perks up instantly, her nausea forgotten. She beams. Your sister? Oh, Lucas, how perfectly grand. And Rose, I beg of you, just hear the logic of it. Lucas Sterling begins to squirm, turning a dark shade of crimson. The Pipers define you as my wife. It was the expedient choice. A man traveling with his spouse and sister raises fewer eyebrows than whatever this motley crew is. Rose, frowning. Your wife? Really, Lucas? Was there no room for a distant cousin, or perhaps a maiden aunt, or even just another sister? Do you think me too old to play the older sister? Is that it? It needn't have been a matrimonial farce. Lucas sheepishly produces 2 plain gold bands from his pocket. We shall need to wear these. If we are to be inconspicuous, we must dress the part. I mean, again, I understand she might be upset by this, and especially that they will probably have to, like, share rooms to not be suspicious in this plan, but again, he's thinking survival, right? He's just like, how do we get out of here in the middle of the war? So, I think she better accepts it. Rose stares at the rings, then bursts into laughter. The absurdity of it is all too much. Lune's smile vanishes. She glowers at the rings, visibly jealous. Lucas notices. He kneels beside the cot and pulls a small velvet pouch from his pocket. I've not forgotten you, Lune. He fastens a string of pearls around her neck. Lune gasps, touching the cool gems. Rose. Livid. Lucas, we needed the money for food and the long haul home. You spend it on baubles? Steady on, my darling wife. We have more than enough to see us through. You're taking this marriage nonsense far too easily, Mr. Sterling. He waves a set of tickets in front of her face. Passage to Europe is secured. We depart on the morning tide. It's a blue funnel merchantman, not a luxury liner, but there isn't another bolt hole out of the city. I was incredibly lucky to even be able to get those. I have to warn you that we aren't heading into open water. We have to run the Malacca Strait gauntlet. 500 miles of the narrowest, shallowest water on God's earth, and the Japanese hold every inch of the northern coast. They captured the airfields in the Kedah Alor Strait and Sungai Patani. That means their bombers will be only 20 minutes away from our deck at any given moment. They'll be hunting for the ship's wake from the clouds, and will be navigating in total maritime blackout. No lighthouses, no channel markers. If the captain miscalculates, we'll be sitting ducks for a strafing run. And then there are the I-boats, the Japanese submarines. They're corking the funnel at the top of Sumatra, waiting for the few of us who don't get caught by the planes. So by all means, get your rest now. Okay, Sumatra is clickable. Sumatra is the largest island in Indonesia. It was the crown jewel of the Dutch East Indies and the primary reason Japan went to war in the Pacific. Yeah, so they just wanted control of the area. Rose. A delightful bedtime story, Lucas. Well done. Lucas. I shall take my leave then. I'll step outside. Sleep well, ladies. Rose grabbed Lucas's hand. You'll do no such thing. Stay in the room with us. After all, it would raise eyebrows if husband and wife were found keeping separate quarters. There's space on the floor. I'll get you a spare blanket and bolster, yes. Yes, they're already into the plan. Interesting that Lune was jealous, right? Like, I keep struggling with placing her age because she gets excited that someone her age arrives at the plantation, but then Lucas is clearly like an adult in his 20s, and at least from her behavior, she seems very childish, right? So I'm like, so in my head, she's a young teen. But then it's like, is she jealous of like, oh, I want to play marriage with Lucas? Or is she just jealous because he brings Rose a gift and she wanted something nice? Okay, well, there is a bolster. Long firm pillow common in the tropics, okay, so nothing like crucial. Just a little bit of extra knowledge. So Malacca Strait then appears on our map, but Singapore is not complete. Which would imply that December 22nd, the next day, they must still be in Singapore, and then it becomes complete. The group get woken up in the night. A loud wail begins to rise and fall over the city. They get dressed and go downstairs to see what's going on. Lucas notices a disheveled British soldier, a veteran by the look of it, huddled in the archway of the shophouse. I say, soldier, what's happening? The Japanese. They've taken to strafing the city on regular basis now. A nightly turnout, as it were. The soldier gestures vaguely towards the shattered storefronts across the street. Did you not notice the blown-out glazing? I should find a hole if I were you, and I should do so sharply. The streetlights suddenly go out. The soldier laughs. At least they learned from last time. Ballet incompetence. On the first night, the government left the lamps burning like a lighthouse. The Japanese didn't even need a compass. Bombers simply followed the light straight to their targets. That actually happened? The soldier nods, crushing his cigarette under a battered boot. Now, seek cover. They're nearly upon us. The air raid sirens stand to wail again. The farming begins, a low vibration that rattles the teeth in their gums. The ground beneath the shophouse starts to shudder. The siren! Get under the table. It's heavy teak table. It will hold. Lune and Rose scramble under the table. Lucas holds on tight to them. Sound of bomb exploding get closer and closer. The blast wave shatters any remaining windows in the area. Glass shrapnel sprays all around them. The blast creates a vacuum that sucks the air out of the room, popping their ears, replaced by a searing wall of heat and dust. Rose. Lune! Are you intact? Lune nods, a terrified look on her face. We cannot remain here to be buried alive. We must strike from the queue. Lucas, let's get to the ship. Quickly. They stumble into the street. It's pandemonium. The sky is sticky orange and the air chokes them with the smell of rubber and roasted spices from the hit warehouses. The Japanese raid uses incendiary bombs. The wooden roofs of the shop houses are on fire. The auxiliary fire service are already on the scene, struggling with hand-drawn pumps. In the crash of panicked mob, Lune is torn from Lucas's grip by a surge of fleeing people. I say, pardon me, madame, step aside, my sister, have a care, you brute. Lucas tried to navigate the throng with polite frustration of a gentleman at a crowded railway station, but he's woefully ineffective. Lune is being swept further away into the darkness. Rose. Oh, for heaven's sake. Rose shoves Lucas aside and plunges headlong into the fray. She delivers a sharp blow to a man blocking her path and kicks another squarely in the shin. Move it. Get out of my way. Lune! She grabs Lune by the collar of her dress and holds her back. Come along. We are departing this instant. They sprint for the Keppel docks, scrambling up the gangway of the blue funnel merchantman just as the mooring lines are cast off. As the ship pulls away, the black suit of the north begins to fall once more, quoting the shivering survivors as Singapore burns behind them. They have really not escaped the fighting, right? They went from their plantation being directly attacked to Singapore, which is now being bombed, so they're definitely gonna come out of it with a lot of trauma. Next, we find ourselves in Malacca Strait. The water is shallow and cluttered with wrecks of ships that didn't make it. And it should now be December 23rd. Hopefully they're all still together. The Blue Funnel merchantman was a labyrinth. Every inch of the deck space was occupied by distressed British subjects, huddled on crates or sleeping on dirty blankets. Distressed British subjects, DBS, the official category for British refugee with no means of support fleeing the Japanese occupation. Yes, so all the people that were there in the British colonies, British territories, they're now fleeing. The vessel moved with a slow and heavy rumble. It was a constant reminder that they were sitting on thousands of tons of cargo and fuel, a prime target for Japanese torpedo. Lucas Sterling spent the first morning on the boat deck scanning the horizon for the silver glint of periscopes. An unknown person. Good morning, sir. Quite an adventure, I must say. What's your story? Yes, now we're getting into like, you can open a scene with just the three of them, but there could be other people in it that we don't have to identify and it's totally fine. Previously the game would be like, no, you don't know all those people, you can't see. My wife and I were in Borneo. We made it to Singapore, but only just. How about you? Borneo, eh? You chaps had it uncommonly quick. I spent 3 weeks in hiding before scrambling for the causeway. The brass in Singapore told us the jungle was impassable. Impassable. The Japanese were riding bicycles through the thick of it like they were on a Sunday jaunt in Hyde Park. The causeway is a bridge connecting Singapore to Malaysia. It's the same story everywhere, I'm afraid. The Royal Navy is stretched thin. They've been caught with their pants down. I saw the smoke over the strait when we pulled out. Did you manage to salvage much? Or are you traveling on a secretariat chitty like the rest of us DBS wretches? Lucas gestures vaguely towards the cabin. I've my wife and sister with me. We've managed a few trinkets and the clothes on our backs. Beyond that, well, I suspect I'm starting from scratch once we hit England. At least you've got your woman Volkentak. My man was on the last P&O boat out in November. P&O is interesting here because currently there is a company that's like P&O cruises, P&O ferries. Are they connected? Like, are they actually historical? I've never obviously considered that. Or is the company now just using the same name? Pray heaven she made it to the gale face. I haven't had a scrap of news since the wireless went down at Ipoh. Okay, the gale face was the most prestigious and evocative landmark in Colombo, Ceylon. I think that's Sri Lanka now. It consisted of two main parts: the gale face green, the vast seaside promenade, and the iconic Gale Face Hotel. And then Ipoh, a major city in Malaya that fell early during the invasion. The man reaches into his pocket, producing a dented silver flask. Care for a lick? It's some rather questionable brandy I managed to liberate in Singapore before the siren started. It's got a kick like a mule. Lucas, taking the flask. You're a prince among men. To absent friends, eh? To absent friends. And to short war. When evening hits, the ship is entirely blacked out. No lights are permitted on deck. It would make too much of a target otherwise. Lucas walks into the cabin. Did you two have a good rest today? You needed it. Lune nods. Yes, I feel more refreshed. I also finished our rations from land. I fear my greatest challenge is yet to come tomorrow, managing to keep the ship's fare down. Greasy mutton and boiled cabbage. Rose points to the railing outside their cabin. Lucas and Rose step out. Leaning against the rail besides Rose. I believe we've cleared the Malacca Strait without a tile. We strike for the open blue tonight. Thank the star for small mercies. Rose takes 2 cigarettes out, offering one to Lucas, who refuses. She takes a long drag. Lune was crying in her sleep. Poor girl. She's been through so much but putting on such a brave face. We'll keep her safe. She's very strong-willed. She will be okay. They stop the conversation when they hear Lune joining them. Singapore is gone, isn't it? I looked back at noon, there was only the smoke. Rose wrapping an arm around Lune's shoulders, pulling her close. Don't look back, little mon. There's nothing left for us in the east. From here on, we look to Blighty. Lune, touching the pearls around her neck. Lucas? Yes, Lune? You're still wearing the ring. You haven't taken it off since we left the queue, even in the safety of the cabin. Lucas looks down at the gold band on his finger. Then at Rose in the twilight. Okay, maybe he's like, you know, it wouldn't be too bad to have her as a wife, but I guess Lune is indeed jealous of that arrangement. So he did say that he thought they cleared the strait, but we didn't acquire any new locations, so I guess we just keep going. Next we have December 24th. and I assume it's still the three of them in that strait. The cabin is a stifling iron box. Rose Goodwill is vigorously scrubbing the dirty porthole with a damp rag, while Lune Goodwill lies motionless on the lower bank, her face the color of spoiled milk. Rose tosses the rag into a bucket. There. At least now we might see the torpedo before it hits us. Lune, do sit up. You spent the morning looking like a figurehead on a shipwreck. The smell coming from the galley. It's positively medieval, Rose. How can they expect us to eat boiled cabbage in this heat? One eats what is put before one, when one is a distressed British subject, my dear. Now get up and put on your dress. We're going on deck for tea. Tea? We're on a rust bucket in wars and you're talking about social graces? Rose, placing the gold band back on her finger. Precisely. If we look like rabble, the authorities will treat us like rabble. In this part of the world, starched linen is the only thing standing between us and the abyss. We are the Sterling family now, and we shall play the part. Lucas enters the cabin, his white linen jacket stained with coal dust. The deck is crawling with people. It's so hard to get around without knocking people over. Miller from Johor, the old chap I was talking to yesterday, is pestering everyone for news and the staff are overworked. Rose walking over and smoothing Lucas's lapel. You look as though you've been stoking the boilers yourself. Come on now, Lune, the tea won't wait. Let's go. Later on the boat deck, Rose sits regally in the rat and jail, a month-old copy of the Tatler open in her lap. Lucas stands behind her, his hand resting passively on the back of her chair, his eyes scanning the horizon. Lune is leaning against the rail, staring at the white wake unspooling behind him. It looks like a shroud, doesn't it? Unrolling all the way back to Sandakan. If it's a shroud, then it's a funeral one, Lune. The Japanese have airfields in Kedah now. The entire state is now under Japanese control, and we're about to go past that coastline. If a Nell or a Betty spots our wake, we're in the soup. So the Nell or a Betty are the Allied reporting names for the Japanese twin-engine bombers that patrolled the Malacca Strait. Rose, turning a page of her magazine. Do talk about something congenial, darling. The group of old women over by the lifeboat are watching us. They've already asked me where we were wed. I told them Singapore 3 years ago. St. Andrew's Chapel. Lucas. St. Andrew's, is it? You frightfully vivid imagination, Rose. Yes, sport and fetch me some of that ghastly lukewarm water they're calling tea. I'm thirsty. Lune follows Lucas to the tea caddy. 3 years, you've erased my father in a single afternoon's chat. Lucas turns around, touching Lune's arm affectionately. We haven't erased him, Lune. Until we hit the gale phase, we need to not draw attention to ourselves. Steady the buffs, little moon. Please. Lune stares longingly at the sea, holding back tears. I'm steady, Lucas. It's the world that's gone adrift. I miss Mother the most, but I did love my father too, you know. And he loved Rose. Please remember that. Don't sully his memory. Lucas gets 3 mugs of lukewarm tea and starts heading back. Come now, Lune. Wipe those tears and have some tea with us. Lucas? Yes, little man. Do you promise we will look for my brother the moment we set foot on the quayside? I give you my word of honor. I wonder why Lucas didn't keep that promise. Did something happen to them on the journey? Yes. They were on the way, trying to get back to England, but then a few years later the brother is still unaware what has happened to any of the family, including Lune. So do they not make it? Do they make it and then just can't find him? I mean, it's also the problem of like, it doesn't seem like Lune really knows about her brother, right? He's been in boarding school for who knows how long, so she might not even know where to find him. Well, but that means still no new location, so on December 25th, are we still in the Malacca Strait then? Yes, we are. And then we have uncovered everything, so hopefully here we will find where they've gone next. The blue funnel measurement has finally emerged from the claustrophobic squeeze of the Malacca Strait. The sea has opened up into the vast Andaman Sea. For the first time in a week, the horizon of the east is clear of the smoke of burning Malaya. Lucas Sterling is on the deck. He can see the Nicobar Islands. These islands were being reinforced by the British in desperate attempt to create a defensive line. Lucas is relieved. This area is still under British control, and seeing the landmark brings him hope that they have a chance of survival. It's Christmas Day, 1941. In their cramped 4-bunk cabin, Rose Goodwill has performed a minor miracle with a few scraps of silver cigarette foil, creating some shiny, festive garlands. Lucas returns to the cabin. The captain tells me we've put Sumatra behind us. We're in the Andaman now, striking west for the gale face. Thank the stars. A bit of luck at least. Lune is sitting on the edge of the bunk, looking more alive than she has in Singapore. Is that true, Lucas? Are we truly away from the Japanese and their airfields? We're beyond the range of their bombers, at any rate. We've still the submarines to consider, but the open blue is sight better than that death trap of the Strait. Rose goes under the bunk and produces a dented tin that was hidden under there. Then I declare a double celebration. One for the captain and crew of this fine vessel, and one for Father Christmas. Lune gasping. Rose, is that a plum pudding? Don't ask me what I had to trade for it, and it's a bit battered, and heavens know it won't be hot, but it's Christmas in a tin. Lucas grins as he reveals a bottle with a handwritten label from his jacket pocket. And I've secured some celebration spirits from our friend Miller. It's strong enough to strip the paint off the hull, but it will serve for Yuletide toast. Lucas pours the pungent rum into 3 mugs. The blue funnel merchantman rolls gently. The first hint of the Bay of Bengal swell, yes. So that's our next location that we will be in. Lucas raising his mug to absent friends. Lune touches the pearls at her throat and her voice trembles. To Papa and Mama, Rose, to absent friends, and to us, the Sterling family. May we reach Tilbury before the gin runs out. Lune taking a tiny sip and coughing. God heavens, it's like drinking a lightning bolt. Lucas laughing. It will put hair on your chest. Rose slicing the cold pudding with a pocket knife. Do you think they're listening to the king's speech back home? Around a fire with real holly and proper snow? Lucas. I expect they are, though I imagine His Majesty has a deal to say about the current unpleasantries in the east. Rose. Tirapa, Lucas, for tonight we shall pretend we are at peace. No sutre, no sirens. And certainly no pirates, just a bouquet Christmas in the middle of the ocean. So yes, that's their little Christmas celebration on this boat while they're attempting to escape. Rose hands a slab of pudding to Lune. Lune chews the rich, fruity pudding, a tear finally escaping the rolling down her cheek. It's the best thing I've ever tasted. Lucas, it's a start, isn't it? A few days of clear water and a bit of duff. We might just make a go of this, Rose. You're incorrigible, Mr. Lucas. Don't get sentimental. It doesn't suit the husbandly image. Now be a sport and pour me another tot of that vile firewater. I have a Christmas spirit to maintain. Duff is apparently slang for Christmas pudding. I didn't realize there was slang for Christmas pudding. So yes, they're having a little Christmas celebration, and now we're gonna be in the Bay of Bengal. A contested, dangerous, and isolated war zone, yes. So they're not quite safe yet, but we moved to December 27, so a couple of days later, with those 3 again. Now this means likely the rest of this timeline is just those 3 in new locations, so we do lose the game mechanic of actually working out where we need to be going and who's gone where, but we do get a lot of the story of what was happening to them, because it wasn't that just they escaped and all was well, right? They were still having to go for a lot to try and return back home. Okay, so this is the only thing that happens in the Bay of Bengal. The ship is wallowing through the Bay of Bengal, far from the sight of land. They are being escorted along with a dozen other ships by a British Navy destroyer. Their northeast monsoon has turned the sea violent, large waves crashing the blue funnel merchantman unceremoniously. The ship is pitching violently. After a day of constant vomiting, Lune has finally succumbed to heavy, seasick sleep in the lower bunk. Lucas and Rose have left her to rest and are in the galley getting some tea. Rose is bracing herself as she tries to pour a measure of water. I've had enough of this stupid boat swaying like a drunkard. I swear my internal organs have switched places. Lucas is attempting to steady the small table. The monsoon in the Bay of Bengal is traitorous, but we should clear it soon and arrive at Colombo. Yes, that's a new location. This is when we shall finally be able to relax, leaving both the storm and the Japanese finally behind us. You've remained unnervingly calm through this whole ordeal, Lucas. Is it part of the SIS training? Learning how to remain shipshape while the world goes to the dogs? That's not training, it's life. I lived through some harrowing moments. Once you've seen your whole crew get murdered in front of you while you were helpless, you realize that fretting is a waste of man's final hours. Out of nowhere, a thunderous explosion shakes the hull. It is not an explosion on the board, but a deep charge dropped by their escort destroyer a mile away. The emerging gongs begin to clang. Lucas, that's the submarine alarm. Rose, get your life belt now. I'll go find Lune. Panic erupts in the passageway outside. In the chaos, Rose stumbles as the ship takes a massive roll. Lucas turns back around to catch her, his arms wrapping around her waist, pinning her against his chest to keep her from falling. The ship is still rolling. Dishes and bottles are clattering and clashing all around them as they fall from tables and shelves. Lucas, Hold on to me, don't let go. If we hit the water, stay with me, do you hear? For a long minute, they stay locked together, the thumping of Lucas' heart echoing against Rose's ribs. The blue funnel merchantman rights itself slowly. The explosion of the depths charges continue in the distance, but the all clear eventually sounds. Their eyes catch each other for a split second, then Rose puts herself back together. You can't let go now. I'll be quite alright. They return to the cabin, the adrenaline leaving them trembling and spent. Lune stirs in her sleep, but doesn't wake. Okay, she's just like, I'm sleeping here, don't disturb me with your explosions. Lucas sinks onto a crate, his head in his hands. Rose sits beside him and puts her arm around him comfortingly. That was positively harrowing. Where is your unnerving calm now? I lied. I hold it all in the moment, but it just comes out even harder after it's over. Look at my hand. Look. Lucas lifts his right arm and his hands are shaking uncontrollably. And today it was worse. I kept thinking of you and Lune. I did not care what happened to me, but it was hurting my heart so much to think something could happen to either of you. I'm sorry, Rose. You should be enjoying your life, not waiting to be gutted by a torpedo in the middle of nowhere. I was not happy at the plantation, Lucas. I was dying in a different way back in Borneo. Rose is trying to compose herself before she can say the next part. Her voice is trembling as she tries to hold back the tears. I had contemplated ending it all on numerous occasions. You know, I had even penned a farewell note out of desperation and a need to feel noticed, to feel loved. At least here, I feel vivid, even if I'm scared out of my wits. Lucas, you've more pluck than any agents I've worked with in the East. Rose leaning her head against his shoulders. What is the plan when we get to London, truly? What is in your heart? There was no true plan. Just keep both of you safe for as long as possible. But now, after the last couple weeks, Lucas remains silent for a while, stroking his ring. I've spent 10 years playing the ghost Rose. No ties, no heart, but looking at you on that deck, I realize I don't want to cross the bar alone. Rose closing her eyes. You aren't alone. Okay, so we've got some feelings developing between those two. Lune might be furious a little bit about this. So what we know of Rose's story from the plantation is that she used to be Lune's nanny and then ended up marrying Jeremiah after he divorced Teresa, but they were all just staying on the plantation because they had nowhere else to go, right? You just kind of locked in there. There are not many people like living around there, and so it just kind of all remains this weird locked situation between the residents. But yes, for our next stop, they're making it through Colombo. The gale face sits atop the seafront. And the date is now December 31st, so just about hitting New Year. I was actually previously looking at this because I said, oh, it goes from December 17th to July 1st. But it goes also from December 17th, 1941 to 1948. I was thinking it's months. No, it's years. It's years. This whole timeline. Do they get lost at sea, or do they like just end up stopping somewhere and they're not leaving anymore? I guess the answer is somewhere here in those little squares. So we're in Colombo now, but doing Lune, Lucas, and Rose says the resonance is distorted. Your reconstruction is incorrect. So they're somehow separated. Well, we can check the biohazard sample. Take a look. Partial echo from the biohazard sample. Lucas, keep your chins up, both of you. We've managed the Andaman, now comes the challenge of the Admiralty red tape. If we keep our composure, we should be able to navigate the paperwork checks without a hitch. It's a long story. Rose and Cynthia laugh heartily as Lucas blushes. Okay, so that's why I couldn't reconstruct it. Cynthia is here. Okay, I'm not gonna read the rest of it here because I think we can now get a reconstruction if we just mark all 4 of them. So we know Cynthia made it out and eventually gets to here at the same time as they're here. The merchant ship docks at Colombo on New Year's Eve. The docks are absolute bedlam. Thousands of Ceylonese laborers are hauling coal baskets while British MPs in red caps bark orders at a line of dejected-looking refugees. Lucas, keep your chins up, both of you. We've managed the Andaman. Now comes the challenge of the Admiralty red tape. If we keep our composure, we should be able to navigate the paperwork checks without a hitch. Rose, I look like something the cat dragged in, Lucas. If the gale face sees me like this, they'll send me straight to the kitchen. Lune is awestruck, clutching her pearls, her eyes wide with the scale of the city. Look at the soldiers, Rose, so many of them. Are we going to be alright? As they clear the customs shed, a familiar voice cuts through the noise of the docks. Cynthia, Rose, Mr. SIS, little Lune. God heavens, you look like you've been dragged through the hedge backwards. Yes, it feels like if they didn't just set off on Lucas's boat and waited a little bit longer, they could have met back with Cynthia and they could have met with whoever she met up with from the Navy, right? And potentially they would have had a better passage than what has been happening to them this entire time. They spin around to see Cynthia. She's a striking contrast to the ruin. She's in a crisp tropical whites, a service armband on her sleeve. Rose. Cynthia, you're intact. I'm so happy to see you. Cynthia. Intact and on duty, Rose. When the Navy pulled us out of that Borneo inferno, I was ordered straight to the intelligence hub here. I've been scanning the manifest for 6 days, hoping to see your names. So the Borneo inferno brings up, I wonder how Cynthia's journey went. I know my benefactor has no need nor want to have that information, but Miss Seville could yet prove useful to me. I should probably check in on her. I'm sure I can sense her journey in my mind's eye if I concentrate. Okay, so we will get a second thing like this as well, where we can see how did Cynthia get in here. I don't have enough information to identify the soldiers or follow the trail past this hour yet. I need to unlock some more memories first. I should come back later. Okay, so not yet though. Okay, so that's now an additional thing for us to go through and track down the information and see more of the story. Imagine my surprise when I saw Mr. SIS on the manifest. Lucas, it's a long story. Rose, not that long, he just fancied himself the husband type. Rose and Cynthia laugh heartily as Lucas blushes. All right, we've had our fun, but I have some pressing issue to discuss. We're DBS, Cynthia. On Blue Funnel Merchant full of refugees, and we're carrying delicate cargo. You still have the sample? I suspected as much. I have a staff car waiting on the queue. We'll get you past the harbor guards and straight to the gale face. Lune. Miss Cynthia, did you bury them? My mother and father? Are they at peace? Please tell me they were. Cynthia looks at the girl, her face softening for a brief, painted second. I saw a great deal of bravery that night, Lune. And they were the bravest of them all. We quelled the fires and made sure they were all buried with dignity by the chapel. Only poor Vitalina and Mr. Bonfire were too charred to bury, and we gave them a sea burial. Keep your heart up. You're with us now. Lune buries her face deep in Cynthia's chest. Thank you, Miss Cynthia. Later, on the Galeface Green, the sun is setting on New Year's Eve. The Grand Lawn is covered in anti-aircraft pits and sandbags, but the Galeforce Hotel still stands proudly against the sea. After the luxury of proper bath, Lune and Rose emerge looking and feeling so much better. Cynthia has outfitted them in beautiful clothes and straw hats. Lucas. Ladies, you are looking positively a treat. Lune. Thank you so much, Lucas. Oh, and to you too, Miss Cynthia. Don't mention it, little moon. You're the most welcome. They are sitting on the veranda, 4 survivors with stegas in hand. The Indian Ocean roars against the seawall. The news is grim, SIS. Hong Kong has fallen. Singapore is under fire, as you know. They're calling this the blackest new year in history of the empire. All the more reason to get this sample to Whitehall. If the Japanese are using green mist in the Sulu Sea, the War Office needs to know before they strike the Indies. Rose, for tonight, can we not be agents? Can we not be the refugees? It is New Year's Eve and we are safe in a fine company. Cynthia, raising her glass, a wry smile on her face. Well said, Rose. To Goodwill Plantation. May it one day rise from the ash. And to the Sterling family. You're so charming together, you even fooled the master attendant. Lune. May it be end better than it started. As the midnight gongs begin to echo from the ships in the harbor, the blackout remains total. There are no fireworks, only the lights of the searchlight sweeping across the dark water, waiting for the inevitable. So we don't have any new locations, which would indicate we remain in Colombo. We can snoop with the sample. We have Lucas speaking to Cynthia, but it's possible that it's all of the 4 here together still. Yes, okay. So because we're not concerning ourselves with like individual tiny locations now, as long as they're all in the city still, it counts. And this is the last thing that happened in Colombo. The next morning, Cynthia takes them to back room in the Galeface Hotel. The room is filled with chests and crates, and Cynthia unlocks the first chest. I've had my people raid the Admiralty stores and the local apothecaries. You're entering the most treacherous leg of the journey, and I'll not have you arriving in London looking like shivering specters. Take as much as you need. Rose running a hand over heavy, tan-colored fabrics. Is this Burberry? Gabardine trench coats for the lot of you. They're the civilian pattern, but lined with wool fleece. You've been in the 90-degree heat of Borneo for years. The Atlantic in February will feel like a literal slap in the face. Put them on the moment you clear the Suez. Lucas. And the provisions, Cynthia? The merchantman's galley is already beginning to reek of rancid fat. Cynthia opens the next crate, producing a silver tin. Horlicks malted milk tablets. The RAF boys use them. I've also packed several jars of Peril. A cup of hot beef tea will do more for your fortitude than a bottle of gin. I've never had Peril, but as far as I'm aware, it's still a thing. People talk about it. As same Horlicks. Horlicks is still a brand that exists with like the malted milk products. So I guess they're all things that have existed for way longer than I've really thought about. Because now that I live in the UK, like I'm aware of those things existing, but I've never was like, oh, how long has this brand been around? It's interesting to see those sort of things in a game that's obviously it's fictional, but it's set in a historical setting that tries to be somewhat accurate to the time, right? Like I think I think the overall setting matches, like it's just those people and their particular stories are fiction. Lune, picking up small brown glass bottle. What is this one? It smells strange. Cynthia. Hyoscine tablets. The Bay of Bengal was merely a warm-up. The Arabian Sea can be devilish in this time of year. If the horizon starts to tilt, take one every 6 hours. It will make your mouth feel like a Sahara dust storm, but it will keep your stomach where it belongs. Okay, so like seasickness medication. And then we get the Arabian Sea, so that's where we're gonna move next, most likely. Lucas, and the quinine? Cynthia. I've secured a flash supply of tabloids, enough to last until you hit London. The Mediterranean damp often brings the Malarian shakes back with a vengeance. Keep the dose regular, Lucas. Lastly, British Alney wool blankets. They're rough as a badger's back, but they're pure wool. Wrap yourselves in them once you hit the desert nights. The desert air is deceptively cold. Rose looks at the mountain of gear. You've turned us into a walking supply depot, Cynthia. You'll need it, Rose. The Japanese are already striking for Burma and the U-boats are everywhere. You're carrying an important package. Least the service can do is ensure you have a warm coat and a steady stomach when you deliver it. Yes, because obviously they might move out of where the Japanese are attacking in the east, but as they move towards Europe, they have to then start worrying about the war that's going on over there. So it's not like they make it out of here and it's safe. Lucas. My only concern is that this bounty will draw an eye of every desperate soul on that deck. We're immensely grateful, Cynthia. Don't mistake me, but we must tread warily from here on. We'll need to keep our heads down and try to pack it as small a crate as possible. Rose. Well, I'm staking my claim on the garbadines and the blankets. I have no intention of arriving in London a human icicle. Lune. And I shall want the malt milk and Bovril, which means you shall just have to handle carrying it for all of us, darling husband. Aye, aye, Mrs. Sterling. Yes, I mean, obviously, if they have a lot of stuff, if people see that, they might be desperate and try to take some of it. And again, like they're on a journey to try to deliver and protect the samples, so they don't want to lose it as part of some other scuffle they might get into. And yes, then we're into the Arabian Sea. It might look like we're getting closer on the map, but obviously this is still a very long way. So we're in the Arabian Sea now. The great blue empty. So it's now January 8th, 1942, and it's still just Lune, Lucas, and Rose. Cynthia is no longer available to us because I guess we learned she's off on her own story, right? There's gonna be another path for us to follow from the mind's eye. Lucas Sterling has rigged a makeshift tent using 2 of the British Army wool blankets draped over a spare spar to provide shade. Rose Goodwill and Lune Goodwill are seated on the remaining blankets. Rose. Do hurry along, Mr. Sterling. I have a strong craving for a cup of Bovril. I never thought I'd see the day when the meat extract was the height of luxury, but there it is. Lune is busy popping a Horlicks tablet into her mouth and crunching contentedly. It's like eating a malted cloud, Rose. I'd forgotten things could taste like, well, like things other than boiled mutton and salt. Lucas. Here we are. Bovril tea a la Cynthia. It's thick enough to float a coin in it, but I'll put the iron back in your blood. As they sip the salty brew, a dozen flying fish burst from the water, gliding over the surface. One lands with a wet thwack into the cabin floor. Lune gasps, then erupts into a fit of giggles. Lucas! We have an uninvited guest for tea! Lucas chuckles at the sight of the fish flapping frantically. I say, do you have your papers with you, little fish? Or are you a clandestine on our fine ship? Rose jumps up dramatically and grabs Lune by the arms. Quickly, Lune! He's a scout for the king of the sea. We must return him to his watery kingdom before he dries out. Rose and Lune both reach for the slippery fish, and it slips through their hands, and for a chaotic moment, They are both squealing with laughter as the fish eludes them, sliding across the floor. Finally, they scoop it up together and fling it back in the sea. Lune wipes a stray tear of laughter from her cheek. Oh, did you see his eyes? He looked positively affronted. It's a capital omen, little moon. I didn't know fish could fly. I'd read about them in my picture books. I never dreamt I'd have one on my lap. When we hit London, I shall spoil you rotten. I shall take you to Selfridges, and we shall buy the most scandalous hats in the building. We'll look like screen sirens, and will make my darling husband carry all the boxes home. Lucas, I shall carry them with pride, my dear. Though I suspect I will need more than malted milk to survive a trip to the shops with the two of you. Rose reaches into the crate and pulls one of the garbine trench coats. She drapes it over Lune's legs like a heavy quilt. There, a bit of Burberry to keep the evening chill off. We're going home in style, Lune. Keep your pecker up. Lune snuggling into the fleece lining. I'm keeping it up, Rose. I truly am. So just a little light-hearted moment on their journey. I mean, Rose is still being like, oh, we will do all the shopping and we'll do everything when we get home. But what is the reality of them when they get home, right? Obviously, England at the time, again, still at war. She obviously was married to Jeremiah, but he was basically penniless. He was in debt, so it's not like there's a full bank account waiting for her back in England. And is she hoping that what Lucas will provide for her? Probably not exactly rich on a government salary. I mean, I'm not saying she's like, oh yes, we're definitely gonna be rich when we get there, right? She's probably just keeping things light while they're journeying, but yes, even if they do make it back, they're still gonna have to figure out how they're surviving out there. Well, this didn't lead us to any new location, so presumably by January 12th, they're still in the Arabian Sea. Lucas and Rose have gone to the upper deck to join the water queue, leaving Lune alone in the cabin. She's slumped on the lower bunk, weakly fanning herself with a limp handkerchief. The scent of Bovril tea Lune drank earlier still clings to the air. Lune notices a shadow under the door that lingers there for a while. Then there's an insistent rattle at the door handle. Rose? Lucas? Is that you? The door is shoved open with a violent crack. Two men standing there looking menacing. There, I told you, look at the stuff. Proper rations, yes, this is what they were worried about, right? That someone would notice that they've got things, they've got rations and clothes and all the things and try and take them. Lune screams, scrambling back against the wall. One of the men tries to calm her down. We're starving, Missy. My wife hasn't kept a bit of ship's fare down in 3 days. We just want a bit of your food. Share with us. The other spots a box of Bovril and reaches out for it. Lune lunges for the small crate. No, it's all we have. Lucas, Rose. The rough man steps forward and roughly wrenches Lune's hands away from the crate. He shoves her back onto the mattress. Lune, sobbing. Please, be a sport. We've lost everything too. You've lost everything, have you? You've a cabin and a father in a white shirt. We're sleeping in the muck by the boilers. We just want our fair share. It's our turn. The two men run out, disappearing into the crowded corridor before Lune Goodwill can even scream. 10 minutes later, Lucas and Rose return, carrying a single lukewarm carafe of water. They find the cabin door broken and Lune curled in a ball on the floor, weeping silently. Rose drops the water in shock. Lune! Lucas looks around and outside of the cabin for any clues. Good God, what happened? Rose. Lune, speak to me. Did they hurt you? Lune gestures towards the crates, choking on her tears. They took it, the Bovril, the malted milk. I tried to stop them, Rose, but I was too weak. Lucas, the evil vultures. They must have smelt it through the vents. It's not just the food, Lucas. They laid hands on her. In a British ship, under the King's colors. We are being picked apart by our own. I'll not have this. I'm going to find the master at arms. We might be DBS, but we're still human beings, and I'll see those scoundrels in irons before the sun sets. Rose, steady on. You'll merely inflame the situation. We need to keep our heads down and keep our mouths shut. Now, cease this talk of scrap and just be the family man I need right now and come console Lune. Lucas nods and heads back inside the cabin. He kneels down and joins Rose in embracing Lune to console her. Okay, so we basically went from they had a little bit of a happy moment into now they've been robbed and Lune's probably gonna be pretty scared. She was already obviously quite traumatized by everything else and now she can't even feel safe inside the ship that they're traveling on. But it looks like we are remaining in the Arabian Sea for January 16, 1942. But that's the final one. But that's the final one here. The sweltering heat of the tropics has finally evaporated. replaced by biting chill that rolls off the desert sands at night. Lucas, Rose, and Lune are huddled together in the sheltered side of the deck, wrapped by the British Army blankets Cynthia provided. Rose, I never thought I'd pine for humidity of Borneo, but this wind is positively glacial. Lune, I cannot feel my nose. I've never felt so cold. Is this what England is like? Yeah, she doesn't even know England. It looks like she's maybe possibly been even born in Borneo, so she's never been there. She has no idea about what it is out there like, and let me tell you, it is cold and wet. Only sometimes it is really, really hot. Lucas, only on a good day, little man. By the time we hit the English Channel, you'll think this was a summer jaunt. Rose slaps Lucas's back hard. Don't tease her like that, she'll believe you and never want to go. I'm only mildly exaggerating, she'll have to get used to it. I could never get used to it. I shall be wearing big woolly coats and blankets and hats all the time, and thick leather gloves. Drink some tea, it'll warm you up. I know it's not Bovril, but it will keep the cold away. I'd give a sovereign for just one of those malted milks right now, just to make the tea taste better. Lucas. You know, there's one rule I've always lived by. Never keep all your eggs in one basket. Rose. Lucas, what are you playing at? Lucas reaches into the inner pocket of his jacket and produces his silver Dunhill cigarette case. He snaps it open, and instead of cigarettes, there are 3 white chalky discs still nestled against the silk lining. Lune. The Horlicks! Lucas, you scoundrel, you hid some. I slipped a few into my case the moment Cynthia handed them over. A bit of insurance for a rainy day, or in this case, a freezing night in the Arabian Sea. Rose pops a tablet in her mouth and sucks on it, as Lune crunches it contentedly. It makes the tea almost bearable. Thank you, Lucas. Lucas wraps his arms around them both, pulling the family tight against the wind. We shall all pull through. We'll clear the Suez Canal in 3 days, and then we'll be within reach of home. Lune snuggles in, her eyes drooping. Can you talk of the trains in London? Tell me again about the fog, the bridges, and the big clock. It looks like we're moving on to the Suez Canal, so the Arabian Sea is done. And so that's all the way up here, so yes, they're gonna be making it to the Mediterranean. So we're closer now, passing through the desert. And presumably it's still all 3 of them here, and it's now January 19th. And that will be the only scene here. Lucas, Rose, and Lune stand at the rail of the boat deck. The view is no longer the infinite blue of the Indian Ocean, but a narrow river of water cutting through the Sinai Desert. Rose, good heavens, I'd quite forgotten that air could feel like this. It's like a slap in the face after years of being boiled alive. Yeah, so she didn't spend all her life in Borneo. She came from England likely first. Unlike Lune, who seems to have no idea about the place. Lucas, it's the desert, Rose. We're in Egypt now. The Orient is officially behind us. Lune, look, there are camels, real camels. I can see camels, Rose, can you believe it? Lucas notices a rusted mast of a sunken merchantman sticking out of the shallow water near the bank. We're out of the Japanese reach, but we're in Mussolini's backyard now. A small, flat-bottomed boat pulls alongside the blue-funnel merchantman. A man in a fez scrambles up a rope ladder. A crowd of refugees gathers as he reaches the deck. Lune. Who is this? Lucas. I suspect he's a gully man. A performer. They're common in these parts, coming up to entertain folks for a few coins. Rose. The gully men. I heard the old hands at the club talk of them when I was young. I never thought I'd see the day. The gully man is a magician and approaches Lune, his hands moving in a blur. He reaches behind girl's ear and pulls out a tiny, live yellow chick. Oh, how did he? Look! He's perfectly real. Lucas tosses a small silver coin to the magician. Well done, good man. The 3 of them stand together, watching the magician's absurd tricks as the desert sun begins to dip. Lucas hands out a garbagine trench coat to Lune. Put this on, little man. It's got some weight to it, and you'll thank me for it by the nightfall. It's so heavy, I feel like a soldier. Rose and Lucas don their own trench coats. Rose, look, we're all soldiers now, Lune. This look suits you, Lucas. Lucas reaches out and adjusts her collar, his touch lingering for a second, with the Mediterranean Sea to contend with next. It's likely to get hairy as we get closer to the... This is removed by the censored language, but I would assume this is presumably referring to the Nazis here, right? We're no longer talking about the Japanese and then the Italians. But I presume they may have used some other term that is no longer in use these days. We do get the Mediterranean Sea as our next location, so we should pop over there since the Suez Canal is complete. Yeah, the cold shock of Europe And now it's January 21st, and all of 3 of them are presumably still there. Lucas, Rose, and Lune are huddled on the deck, their Burberry collars turned up against the spray. The blue funnel merchantman is part of a small convoy now, flanked by 2 elderly V-class destroyers. Rose. The mood on this boat has shifted very quickly. Even the stewards look as though they're waiting for death sentence. Lucas. They have reason to be. I had word with a signals officer near the wireless room. Marseille is effectively a German harbor now, and the French government holed up in Vichy is playing a double game, helping the Nazis root out the remaining Free French forces. They can't be trusted. Our only sanctuary is the rock. Gibraltar. Lune. Gibraltar? Is it far? I assume that's our next location to collect. 1,000 miles of open target practice, Lune. We have to thread the needle between Sicily and Tunisia. The Italians have their submarines lurking in the waters, and the Luftwaffe can reach us from the airfields in the north within 30 minutes. Rose. So from the Japanese army in Borneo to the Nazis in the Mediterranean Sea, is getting through life-threatening challenges just becoming our daily life, Lucas? I know I've said this countless times throughout our journey, but this is really the most dangerous part. The Nazis are desperate to cut the Suez lifeline. Every ship that finds the bottom is a victory for the Germans. We'll be sailing in a permanent zigzag from here to the Atlantic. Lune Goodwill looks at the escort destroyer with concern. Can a little boat truly stop a bomber? I don't give much faith to our escorts. They couldn't have provided any older relics if they tried. Rose. Well, I've already survived a Japanese landing, an air raid bombing, and living in a tiny sardine can with you and Lune for weeks. I'm in no mood to be interrupted by an Italian torpedo. Lucas, I promise you this, you and Lune will be in the first boat lowered if we do get hit. I'll see you to the rock if I have to swim the bally distance myself. Rose leans over and kisses him on the cheek. Don't play the martyr. It doesn't suit the husband I've grown accustomed to. A siren sounds from the lead destroyer. It's the signal to change course. The merchantman begins its first zigzag maneuver into the heart of the Mediterranean Sea. So, Gibraltar is on our map now, however, the Mediterranean Sea is not complete, which means for January 24th, we most likely remain here. And that will be the last thing here. High in the northern sky, 3 silver specks emerge from the sun's glare. The ship erupts into chaos. The emergency gong clangs incessantly. Lucas, Rose, and Lune are thrown against the wall as their ship makes a tight turn. Stukas, get to the center of the deck, stay away from the glass. Stukas refer to the Junkers Ju-87, a famous German dive bomber and ground attack aircraft used by the Luftwaffe in World War II. Okay, so it's a type of a bomber, so not good news for them. A second later, a concussive blast rocks the ship. A bomb has hit the forward crane. The giant structure collapses, destroying part of the deck. The escort destroyers are firing with all their might. One of the planes disintegrates in midair. A second junker, its wing clipped, spirals down and hits the water hard. The attack lasts only minutes. The remaining Nazi plane flees north, chased by the destroyer's shells. The deck is full of wounded refugees hit by the fallen crane. Lucas and Rose step out from behind cover to take stock of the destruction. Sailors are running around, barking orders. Lucas. Rose, help with fetching sand buckets. Rose discards her coat and rolls up her sleeves. Right you are. Lucas and Rose plunge headfirst into the fray. They join a frantic fire party of sailors and refugees. While Lucas helps out with plugging a leak, Rose works hard, passing heavy buckets of sand to smother the flames. In the galley, which has been turned into a makeshift dressing station, Lune is on her knees, her floral dress ruined, ripping long strips of white linen from a salvaged tablecloth to turn into dressings. She hands the strips to a ship surgeon who is tending to wounded sailors. Lune looks away from the blood, not quite ready for that yet. Rose enters the galley. Lune? Oh, there you are, thank heavens, you're unhurt. We couldn't find you. Lune, not looking up. I'm helping, Rose. There isn't enough lint. I've already used up the tablecloths I could find. I'm starting on the napkins now. Rose takes a pair of shears from a nearby table and joins Lune on the floor. Here, give me the other end. We'll strip the whole room bare if we have to. Lucas walks in, covered in soot and sweat. He sees the 2 women, his eyes reflecting a profound sense of pride and respect. I'll go get you girls some tea. So yes, it's still not smooth sailing for them. They've gone back into what is a war zone and are definitely feeling the effects of it. But it seems like they do manage to sail all the way to Gibraltar at least. The Rock, the first sanctuary in Europe. So all of 3 of them make it, right? I presume if someone was going not to make it, we would have that in a scene. And that's on January 28th, 1942. Okay, and only one thing happens here. After the terror of the Mediterranean, the site of Gibraltar feels like the first true sanctuary in Europe where they can finally put their guard down. Thanks to Cynthia's connections, the family is not set to the crowded refugee camps on the racecourse. Instead, they're tucked away in a requisitioned flat in the old town. The house is small and only made up of 2 rooms, but it's more than enough for the 3 of them. A small coal fire illuminates the room. Lune is already asleep in a small annex, exhausted by the journey. Lucas and Rose sit before the fire. Rose is extending her hands towards the heat. I'm sure I shall never be warm again, Lucas. This dreadful rock is a refrigerator. It's the Atlantic air, Rose. It's purifying. They sit in awkward silence for a while. Rose. We've cleared the Mediterranean. The Secretariat isn't watching us here. We could stop the whole marriage shenanigans if you wished. You can take off the ring. Is that what you want, Rose? Rose just stares into the fire, pensive. I find I've lost the script, Lucas. I've spent years in Borneo playing the board mem and then weeks on that trust bucket playing your devoted wife. I'm sure I don't know who I am or what I'm feeling anymore. Lucas, I'll tell you who is there. A woman with more moxie than anyone I've ever met. A woman who kept her polish while the world burned. A woman I truly respect and admire, more than admire. I told you in the Bay of Bengal that I didn't want to cross the bar alone. I wasn't playing there, Rose. I haven't been playing for a long time. Rose turns in her chair to face him, her eyes searching his. Are you truly keen on me? Or is this just the fever of the escape? Lucas takes her hand, his thumb tracing the ring he gave her in Singapore. It's not the fever. I've been carrying a torch for you for a long while now. I don't want to be your intended for the manifest anymore, Rose. I want to be your husband when we get to Tilbury docks, for real. And that's gonna be our next location. That's presumably in England, I think. You absolute fool. You could have any number of eligible women. Why a broken planter's widow? Lucas leans in for a kiss. Rose responds in kind, her hands finding his bare chest under his sweater. He leads her towards the small bed in the corner. Outside, a searchlight sweeps across the window, illuminating them for a second before plunging the room back into the warm, private amber of the fire. Okay, so they do move on from pretending and they actually get together. I mean, yes, it does feel like a relationship basically forged in the trauma of escaping the war and being in lots of perilous situations together. But who knows? Maybe they will make it, right? Maybe it will all turn out fine for them. And yes, we've got Tilbury docks next, here on the coast of England, home. But everything has changed. So the 3 of them, on February 6th, they have finally made it back to England. The arrival is not the triumphant return they had envisioned during those sweltering nights in the Malacca Strait. London is a world of ashen grey and charcoal. The shoreline full of destroyed warehouses and bomb craters. Rose. Good heavens, what have they done to the city? One of the sailors they've gotten friendly with over the journey is having a cigarette next to them. It's been 18 months of relentless bombing, Mrs. Sterling. Lune. It's so quiet. So deathly quiet. They descend the gangway into the Tilbury customs shed. They see women in dungarees and heavy boots hauling crates. At the processing desk, an official in a civil defense armband barely looks up as he inspects their forged papers. DBS from the east, eh? You're the last of the lucky ones. Singapore is practically in the bag for the Japanese. Here's your emergency ration book. You've gotten 14 days of coupons. Use them wisely. He slides 3 small paper booklets across the desk and stamps their papers. Move along. Lune picks up her ration book, staring at the coupons for various goods. What does this mean? Lucas takes the booklet and tucks them into his coat. It means we're not out of the woods yet, Lune. They exit the docks to catch the train to central London. As the train pulls out, they pass through the East End. Entire streets have been leveled. People are queuing in the rain for a single loaf of bread, their gas mask boxes slung over their shoulders. Rose. We fled one graveyard only to land in another. They look so shattered. Lucas, we deliver the vial to Whitehall tonight. Then we find a hotel with a cellar, and tomorrow we start our new life together. He grabs her hand tight. She instinctively puts her other hand on his. Lune puts her head against the glass, stroking her pearls as she watches barrage balloons high in the sky. Barrage balloons were used to protect London from dive bombers. They were filled with hydrogen and were tethered to the ground with steel cables. They were designed to force the enemy planes to fly higher to reduce bombing accuracy. Lune. Politely, Lucas. It's not like your stories. The psychic energy gets intense and full tapestry of their shared life together just opens up to me suddenly. I see Lune, no longer the happy little miss who had been broken by circumstance, blossoming into a woman of remarkable tenacity and independence. I see Lucas and Rose fully in love and devoted to each other. I see where they have found sanctuary in London, in a modest terrace house. They are happy. Now, not okay, so from this, it does seem like Lune was indeed a teen at the time of the original events, right? It does match up with her behavior. And yes, they stayed in London, which was a dangerous place during the war. I mean, they were talking about things being leveled from the bombing. But I guess Lucas still had a job, right? He was still part of the SIS, and therefore they couldn't just, like, I don't know, move to the country and hide there. Okay, so London next then? Yeah, the Sterling's family home specifically. And it is now May 14, 1946. So yeah, so we do a big time skip over 4 years, because we basically just had a quick vision of them having their life together and all that. So presumably they're still here, all together in their home. For the 3 survivors of the Goodwill plantation, the 4 years since landing in England has been a slow, grinding climb. They had lived in a single room in Bayswater through the worst of the V rocket raids, surviving on dry decks, but they had held together. Rose is seated at the small dining table in their house, a mountain of exercise books before her. She's now a teacher in local primary school. She's sitting there, marking homeworks. Honestly, I wish these boys spent half as much time on their long division as they do dreaming of flying Spitfires. Lune enters from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron. She's 21 now, her face no longer sallow with malaria, but that of a woman who has managed 4 years of ration coupons and blackouts. Leave them be, Rose. They're just glad they can run around outside without fear. I've managed to get some suet from the butcher. I thought I'd try my hand at the spotted dick for tea. Yes, the wonderful names of British food items, the spotted dick. But yeah, since it's 46, then the war is over now. But obviously, a long way to recovery for the country and the people still awaits. Rose, you're a veritable wizard, Lune. I don't know how we should have survived all these years without your stewpot. But yes, if she's 21 now, that would have made her 17 at the time of the journey, which is older than I expected. Like, I've expected her to be younger teen than that based on like some of her behaviors and the way she was speaking. But then, considering she was growing up basically alone on the plantation, that may have held her back in terms of like she wasn't becoming as mature at the time. And then she matured really quickly, going through everything they've gone through. The front door opens and Lucas enters. He looks older and more mature. Throughout the latter half of the war, he had been working secretly for MI6 to intercept and neutralize saboteurs attempting to strike the London docks. He pauses in the doorway, his hat in his hand. Rose looks up, her smile faltering. She recognizes the cold, stern look on his face. Lune, come into the parlor, would you? Lune. You've had word from the War Office, I can tell. Lucas reaches into his inner pocket and hands over an official-looking envelope to Lune Goodwill. I've spent 18 months chasing his trail. I promised you on that boat 4 years ago that I would deliver him to you. I found him, little moon, or at least I found out what happened to him. Tell me, give it to me straight. He was mentioned in dispatches, Lune. He was a man of metal. He fought on the continent until the very end. Okay, so here they implied that they think the brother is dead? But clearly he's not, because he hired us to look for them, right? A heavy silence falls over the room. Lune doesn't scream or cry. She simply closes her eyes, head her bowing. Rose puts her arm around her. Oh, my dear, I'm so dreadfully sorry. Lune strokes the string of pearls, the one Lucas gave her in Singapore, which she still wears every day. He was mentioned in the dispatches, you said? Lucas. He was. He died with his face to the enemy, Lune. He was a credit to the Goodwill name. Lune wipes a single tear from her cheek with the corner of her apron. Then we shall have that suet pudding after all. We shall eat it in his honor, because he would have given a sovereign for a bit of a proper duff, wouldn't he? Lucas. I expect he would have, little moon. I expect he would have. Rose. We're still a family, Lune, the Sterling family. We've survived the jungle, the seas, and the Japanese. We shall survive this too. Steady the buffs, my love. Steady the buffs. But that's not all. There is one more in London on July 1st, 1948. So that's just over 2 years later. And now Delphine, us, the medium looking into them, is available to us. So presumably, now that we've discovered their location, we're coming over to be like, hey, actually, your brother, he's alive. And he thinks you're all dead. So maybe time for a little reunion? Although the brother's not here yet. He's not a character yet. Okay, knock on the door. Rose, good afternoon. How may I help you? Oh, I guess because now we're actually in the real world, right? Now we're no longer reading it with our psychic mind. Delphine, Mrs. Sterling, it's good to finally meet you. You don't know me, but I know a lot about you and your family, and I would love to come in and explain. Come in, please don't mind the mess. I was in the middle of scoring test. I'm a school teacher, you see. Thank you very much. Lune, we have company. Coming. So that we get a new picture of Lune looking like an adult. Lune, look at you. You're such a beautiful young woman. Excuse me? Do I know you? It's a long story. Is Mr. Sterling around? I would very much like all of you to be here before I explain my sudden visit. I'm so sorry, my husband is still at work. He shan't be long. Yes, I mean, it's the kind of time where someone knocked on your door and was like, oh, can I come in? And you're like, yeah, come in, let's talk. These days, some random person knocks on your door and wants to come in your house. I think most people would be like, well, what do you want, right? We no longer just let people into our houses. Well, I suppose I could start. The main person I'm here to see is in this room. Choose their destiny. Lucas lied to you. Your brother contacted me from beyond the grave. Okay? I'm trying to figure out what's the truth of the story, because obviously the game starts with a letter, right? The brother writes us a letter. That's how we get hired. I think it's still in our inventory if I can see it. Yes. We receive a letter where the brother asks to help find what happened to his family. So is therefore the implication that the letter was actually her communicating with the ghost, which doesn't feel like it is, or we are going to lie because our other option is Lucas lied to you, and obviously that would likely make Lune mad. Now, do we know that Lucas lied? Do we, because we're a medium, do we actually have the insight to the fact that he knew that the brother wasn't dead, but he lied about it anyway? Or was he simply mistaken, right? Because, I mean, it was the war. Lots of people died. Identities could have been mistaken. Things could have happened, right? It's entirely possible that the information he got was that the brother died, even though that wasn't the truth, considering everything that was happening. Now, regardless of who's lying, who's telling the truth, we know from the story that Lune, she didn't know her brother at all, right? When Lucas came over, she thought that was her brother just playing silly games and coming to get her and whatever else, right? So she doesn't actually know him. She knows of him. She knows that he was somewhere out there, but it's not like she's got a tie to him other than just the natural feeling of wanting to be with family, right? Well, Lucas and Rose have now been with her for a few years. They're the people she has left from her life back at the plantation, but also from the journey. So if we just come out and say Lucas lied to you and introduce that tension between them, we're basically ruining her life, right? She's got a happy life with Rose and Lucas basically looking after her, and now we're just gonna potentially ruin that for her, for rebuilding a connection with the brother that she knows nothing about, and she may actually find that, I don't know, they don't get along. So I'm actually a bit torn here, because why isn't there an option to just say, hey, actually, there's been a mistake and your brother's alive and it's been looking for you, but, don't just drop Lucas into, yeah, he's a liar. I mean, if he did lie, I do wonder why. Was he himself worried that she would just go off with her brother and therefore the connection that they've built would be lost? But that just sounds like an assumption that he would be making, right? They could have still stayed in touch. Anyway, I just don't want to say that he lied. I don't know that is the case, and therefore that's coming to someone and being like, he's a big lying liar and you shouldn't trust him. Well, he's been such a big part of her life. That just feels wrong. I'm already intruding in their lives with all of my psychic spying. So I guess I'm going with your brother contacting me from beyond the grave, because that at least lets her live her life as she knows it now. She doesn't need any more grief, right? She's already grieved for the brother's death because she knew about it for a couple years. And so now just reopening her wounds just doesn't feel right. And not only reopening, but like causing her new wounds and new strife in her life. So let's go with this. Lune, this is going to sound insane, but I'm what they call a sensitive. I can sense echoes from the past and souls that have not yet departed this world. Ghosts, if you will. Your brother, your actual brother, Miss Goodwill, he contacted me. What are you saying? How do you know my... That's not possible. From beyond the grave, his soul could not rest until he understood what had happened to you. Rose, who are you? Why are you saying those horrible things? We've suffered and grieved enough. I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry. This must come as a shock, and I have no proof, save for this journal I wrote describing everything that has happened to you since that fateful night in Borneo. How could I know all this if I didn't have the powers I am claiming? Rose and Lune flip through the journal, their faces white with shock as they read their life. Rose, I just can't get my head around this. How did he contact you? I thought I received a letter, but it wasn't actually quite real. In a way, I should have known. It came with photos of everyone in the plantation at the time. I mean, how would he have got hold of pictures of Canal and Nicaea, for example? Yeah, that's starting to sound like a lot more of a explanation for everything, right? If he wasn't there at the plantation, yet he just happened to have all of that stuff required for us to be able to do our investigation. Although I'm suspecting that whichever thing you pick, she just makes the story fit. So there isn't like one truth, maybe. It's just you get to decide what the truth is. Rose and Lune are staring at Delphine incredulously. I know how it sounds, I really do. I debated long and hard if I should have come here. Lucas enters the house. What's going on? Lune runs up to him and hugs him tight, crying. Rose, it's Lune's brother. This woman claims she spoke to him. Oh no, I didn't say I spoke to him. You're a sensitive. Wait, you're Delphine? Yes, do we know each other already? Oh no, not personally, but MI6 has employed you in the past. You've done some amazing work for us and for the country. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, so he knows about her and she's apparently done work for the country and they've employed psychics to do those things. I mean, considering everything we've seen, she seems like she's the real deal, so sounds like a useful asset to have. Thank you. That means a lot. Rose, so wait, so everything she's telling, it's true? After what I've heard, I couldn't doubt anything she says. Lune gets over the initial shock and finally speaks up. So you're saying my brother cared so deeply about me that he couldn't let go until he found out the truth? Yes, that's what I'm saying. And the moment he discovered you were alive, happy and living your life, the echo of the letter he had sent me just vanished, and I felt him leave, finally at peace. The room is silent for an uncomfortably long time. Tea. Where are my manners? Do you want some tea? That would be wonderful. They all take a seat in the sitting room. Did I make the right choice by coming here, or should I have left you blissfully unaware? Lune wipes a tear from her eye. It's tears of joy. You made the right choice, Delphine. It has given me some actual closure. Thank you. Oh, and before I forget, Delphine grabs something from her pocket. I went to see Miss Seville before coming here, you see, just to get a sense of whether I should or not, you know. Oh, is Cynthia in the country? Yes, but only for a short while, and it's all very hush-hush. No one should know where she is, but you know, I have my ways. Anyway, Lune, she wanted you to have this. Delphine hands over a single, solitary red pearl to Lune. Yeah, that's the pearl that Cynthia had when we looked in the bathhouse. As keepsake, lest we forget, is what she said to me. Lune attaches the red pearl to the front of her necklace. A radiant smile on her face. And that's it. That's the second ending we've had in this game. So now we know the story of Lucas, Lune, and Rose, what happened to them after they've escaped. But that is still not everything, because as we were told, there is still Cynthia's story. I've had a little bit of just her walking around the plantation, but it looks like we can do a similar thing with her where we will see how she left Borneo, where did she travel, and what happened to her there. We know she's still alive at least because Delphine says she spoke to her and she's still working for the government, doing her secret things. And yes, Delphine will be back in Green Mist over Portland. So when they first finished the game, it just said she will be back, but since then the Green Mist over Portland demo came out and all that stuff, so there is now more information about what's going to be happening next. So that's that story, but we will still have to return for Cynthia's story, because it seems like those post-credit sections are quite big and quite loaded with more. So I will leave it here. let me know what you think about my choice, right? Because I think either of the choices is valid and she will just say what she needs to say. But I think, at least to me, I think I said if Lucas has lied, that would have caused a lot more strife and possibly, you know, Lune wouldn't want to forgive Lucas for something like that. So if you've seen the other landing, let me know what you think of that. Which choice do you think is better to pick? And if you have any other thoughts, leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed that one, consider liking or subscribing. And as always, thank you to channel members for supporting the channel. And I will see you soon on another adventure.